back. I am Claire Davids. I am the COO. I run the operations over here at Echelon. You don't normally see me on these webinars. Normally this is Ed's deal, but having met Carrie and Ally and had such great dynamics with them over the past few weeks, I kind of wanted to get on because we have so much in common and we've had some really great chats. And we kind of thought that we would talk today a little bit about what it's like being working moms in a leadership development entity and running leadership development organizations. And this conversation kind of started, I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea where we're going to end up. But the idea about it came when we had to reschedule a meeting last week because I couldn't make it because I had my son's football pasta party. So we thought, this is actually an interesting topic. So again, we're with Carrie Green and Ally Reid from Exemplar. And maybe you guys just want to do a quick introduction about yourselves as well, even though you've done it once before. Let's quickly. So Carrie, go ahead. Or Ally, go ahead.
Carrie, do you want me to start? I'm Allyson Reid. I am Vice President of the East Coast Operations. I live in Yardley, Pennsylvania. I have 3 kids who are now 2 in college and one's a freshman in high school. So we'll talk a little more about that and how, as you know, it's definitely different challenges now, but a little easier than it was when they were small kids and being a working mom.
And I'm Carrie Green. I'm the Vice President of the West Sector at Exemplar. And I have 3 kids also, same as Allyson. So we have 6 kids between the 2 of us. And my kids also are mostly grown and flown. I have one who is in grad school, wrapping up grad school, one who's in college, and one who's a sophomore in high school. So we are talking about something totally near and dear to my heart on being a working mom, because I personally believe working moms are heroes. I think they're superheroes. And I think that they're also really we're hard on ourselves, working moms. We always have those pangs of guilt. So I wanted to dive in there. I think that Claire and Ally have the same empathy for working moms.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I've actually just, as we're talking, I get the, I can hear my son giving me the signature cough outside the door, which is, can I come in or are you on a call?
Right.
And if I ignore him, he knows not to come in.
That's awesome. That's so great that you have a system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Epic timing.
Yes.
But you're right. It's, I think, Carrie, something you said last week, and we can sort of capitalize on it, is leadership development is kind of like, or leadership in general is kind of like parenting, or parenting is kind of like leadership, or the combination of the two. And I sometimes find myself applying things that have happened with the kids to the way I might approach a leadership challenge, or vice versa. I might say, well, that worked really well in this situation for this customer, and maybe I could use this at home with the kids. Yes. You mentioned that earlier, and I think that was a really interesting comment that I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, I think definitely there's a lot of overlap. What Allyson and I are also emotional intelligence life coaches, and so we have really dived in deep around EQ. And you can't live in that space and not have it affect you, not just from the business perspective, but from the personal perspective. And I just remember really looking and understanding how I needed to get better at self-management, not losing my cool, and especially when my kids were younger. And I'm balancing, a full-time career and 3 kids, and, nursing a baby and running a conference call and changing Barbie out of a wedding dress into a bathing suit, all while, running a call with sales reps that are over 4 time zones. And the amount of stress back then was insane. And I say back then because my kids are older. And I do think, as Allyson pointed out earlier, that the dynamic does change, and it does get better in some ways, but also more challenging as kids get older and they have a lot more activities, and you're feeling torn between, work and showing up and being in attendance there.
I think that's a key thing as well, right? When you want to think you're doing a really good job in your working life, but as important, more importantly, is you want to be there for your kids, and you want to be able to be doing a good job in your parenting life, and finding that balance between the two is really, and not beating yourself up about it constantly is really, really a struggle. That's a challenge. And as your kids get older, it's a little easier because you can explain it to them and they can understand.
Right.
But they're still your babies.
Yeah.
Even in grad school, still your baby.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
And one of the reasons Carrie and I love our jobs and being consultants is we do have that flexibility. So like you said, Claire, making that choice, like when we say, okay, let's try to schedule these calls earlier because I want to go to my son's track meet or my daughter's field hockey game. Like we can kind of most of the time we could dictate that schedule so we can manage that. So I do think that that's one of the beauties of this, this type of job, which is nice. But like Carrie said, I think the hardest part is, or maybe Claire, you mentioned as well, it's you want to be 100% to each thing, to being a parent and to your job. And sometimes like you can't be perfect at both, and you have to accept that. And that was really hard for me because I'm a perfectionist, and that's something I had to learn. And regarding emotional intelligence, like we've learned a lot about ourselves as we create emotional intelligence workshops, we work with organizations, we took self-assessments and we found out areas where we needed to work on and some of our blind spots. And we both realized self-management, right? Which I think most parents could say that, right? At times, especially when you're stressed at work and then your kids do something, it's hard to have the patience. And that's something that, we're constantly working on it. So it's just having that growth mindset that, it's something we can continue to grow and get better at. Because I know I still haven't perfected it. I mean, that's something that is a work in progress for me.
Well, I think that's for all of us, right? Everything is always a work in progress. We're always going to have to be working to sort of fix things. And not fix, I shouldn't say fix, improve and grow, right? The growth mindset. And I think it's also what's good maybe for us as parents or and working parents is we can put ourselves sometimes into the learner's environment and the learner's perspective. And I use this example all the time, but when we're talking about creating training and learning, and this could apply to any industry, but we're in the leadership development industry, and coaching, etc. Make it so approachable for the learner, right? And I use the example all the time. If you're sitting waiting to pick your kid up from football practice or from dance or anything, make it something that people can learn and apply and do in those small stretches of time. I know there's a big thing about bite-sized learning, etc. these days.
Yeah.
I think even more so now, it's so appropriate because everyone's time is valuable. And if you have that downtime of 7 minutes, I know that's what I want to be doing. I don't want to be sitting wasting my time. Well, actually I do. I probably want to be sitting. Talk about time management and self-management, so you have to make these things approachable using what we've learned as parents and home managers and stuff to be able to apply them to the working world today. And I think it's been really helpful coming out of an entrepreneurial situation that I used to be in, working for corporate America for a short period, and now back into a small business environment, learning all those different types of people that need help and want to learn and grow. We can sort of apply real life examples. For me, it's been invaluable.
Yeah. Well, Allyson and I feel that same way. We are super passionate about helping, anyone and parents, people who aren't parents yet, really balance their time better and prioritize better. Like that is huge. But we're especially sensitive to the working moms in that environment because we've been in that role and we know how important it is to be efficient, to maximize your time, to be able to manage everything. I always look at being a working mom like the analogy of like being on a tightrope over a big long canyon and you're juggling flaming swords or whatever. There's a lot to balance. And I think there's so much pressure on all people today, but especially working moms to get it right. And there's even pressure to do the whole you have to have good balance. You have to have, I hate that term. What is that term? Work-life balance.
Yeah.
Work-life balance, to me, it just sets people up to either feeling guilty, either they're guilty they have too much work, or they're guilty they don't have enough. I feel that what we need to be saying to people is like, make it work for your authentic self.
Yep.
So if you're a driver and you like filling your day with lots of stuff and that makes you happy and efficient, then great. Do that. Just make sure that you have the self-awareness to know, is this lifestyle working for me?
Right.
And if it isn't working for you, that's where you need to take a step back and say, okay, well, how do I make this work for the life that I have right now? And to young moms out there, I'd say it gets better. Ask for help. Lean on other people. Give yourself some grace. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up so much. And to the seasoned moms, mentor the young moms. I can't tell you. I remember being a young mom and a mother, and I was juggling so much on my plate, working full time. My husband was out of the country on business. My youngest was 2 years old. And I remember this woman, I was on a conference call and I'm trying to balance everything. And I shared a little bit of what was going on in my house with her. No empathy. Instead, she was like, well, we've all been there. And I think there's that attitude of like, well, it's a rite of passage. I did it and it was hard, and you should have to do it, and it has to be hard too, and it's something you have to go through. And I think that we need to be kinder to one another and help one another from that aspect. And that's where Allyson and I, with our leadership development programs, we always come from a place of having this empathy and compassion for people. I mean, most of what we do in the leadership development space is first line leadership work. And a first line leadership position is so hard from the standpoint that these are leaders, especially when they're new, who are drinking from a fire hydrant. It's crazy the amount of information that's flying at them. And our goal is to help organizations help them manage that and come at that from a place of empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I think that's really, really a good approach, right? And I think it's well received. I think we used to live years back in a society where it was, you weren't allowed to have a personal life. Well, you could have a personal life, but your personal life and your working life, the two, never the twain shall meet, right? And now I think we're in a world now, and as moms and as working moms, I kind of feel like we all have a responsibility to each other to support other working moms and to continue that, like, that empathetic role.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've worked with some organizations where it's the two of us and two other women and moms. And I think when we are really vulnerable and authentic, then the other person feels like they could share as well. And it's just nice to have that support. Like we would talk business, but we'd also sometimes talk about our kids or what's going on, our challenges. And I think people really appreciate it. That's one thing with Carrie and I. We're a small boutique firm and it's the two of us, but people really, we develop that relationship with them. We're an extension of their team. And I think it's so important, like Carrie said, to really mentor some of those younger moms out there who might be struggling and show that empathy, because it's not easy. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom too for a little while, and that's really hard as well. I will never judge anyone, a full-time working mom, stay-at-home. I always said that, like, nobody, until you walk in someone else's shoes, you really don't know what that's like. And I think people need to be a little more supportive than, versus judging. And you have to do what works well for you. And for some people, they think they could be a better parent working, right, versus staying home. And I think that's great. Like, I think you just have to see what works best for you.
Yeah, agree, 1000%. So I think maybe just to sort of kind of summarize that, if you're a working mom, considering becoming a working mom, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask questions. everybody around you is human. Some people may be less empathetic than others, but I think in today's society, we're all out there to help. And I think I know I would have loved to have some of the support that is offered out there now. And so seek it out. It would be my suggestion to people. Ask questions and ask for help. Or if you're struggling with something, or you're struggling to figure out how to balance everything, ask somebody who you know has done it, because they'll probably be able to be at least someone you can vent to, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
Venting is good.
Yes. The therapy.
It is. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or should we maybe just take a break and come back and ask Ed to join back in?
We can bring Ed back.
Yeah, we can bring Ed back.
Let's bring in Ed back. Carrie, Ally, thank you so much, and we'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.